All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a huge challenge that pretty much every modern business faces. How do you turn all that raw data you're collecting into actual smart decisions? We're going to put three of the biggest business intelligence tools out there head to head in a BI dashboard showdown.
Does this feel a little too real? You are swimming in data, sales figures, user clicks, all those operational metrics. But honestly, it just feels like noise, not a clear signal. You have this gut feeling that the answers are buried in there somewhere, you just can't quite see them.
And that, my friends, is where BI dashboards come into play. They're the bridge that connects that messy, complex data to real, actionable insights. The best way to think about them is as a visual story, one that lets you see trends, spot problems, and find opportunities with just a glance. So here's our game plan for today. First up, we'll meet our three main contenders. Then, we'll walk through the basic four-step process for building any dashboard. After that, we'll really dig in and compare how each tool handles asking questions and then sharing the answers. Then, of course, the final verdict. And we'll wrap it all up with some universal rules for success, no matter which tool you choose. Okay, let's meet the fighters in our showdown. We're looking at Microsoft's Power BI, Apache Superset, and Metabase. Now, they're all super powerful, but here's the key. They were built with very different people and very different philosophies in mind. So to make this a little easier, we've given them some nicknames. First up is Power BI. We're calling it the Corporate Pro. It's built for big enterprise teams, and it's deeply, deeply integrated into the whole Microsoft world. Next is Superset, the developer's playground. This one's open source, it's super flexible, and it's basically perfect for data teams who want to build custom solutions from scratch. And finally, we have Metabase, the friendly analyst. It's designed from the ground up to be simple, intuitive, and to give data powers to everyone in the company, not just the data experts. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of comparing them, you've got to understand something crucial. It doesn't matter which tool you end up using. The process of getting from data to a dashboard is pretty much always the same. There's this fundamental workflow. And here it is. It's really just a simple four-step loop. First, you've got to connect to your data source. Second, you ask a question, which in the data world just means you're writing a query. Third, you take that answer and you visualize it, in a chart or a graph. And finally, you share that insight with your team so they can actually do something with it. We're going to zoom in on step 2 here, because the way you ask a question is where these tools really, and I mean really, start to show their different personalities. And wow, the difference is night and day. Power BI uses its own very powerful but very complex language called DAX. The learning curve? It's steep, for sure. Superset, on the other hand, sticks with standard SQL, which is the native language of databases, so any developer is going to feel right at home. But Metabase? It throws out the code editor entirely and gives you a simple point-and-click interface, no code required. So what this all boils down to is a classic trade-off, isn't it? It's power and flexibility versus speed and simplicity. With Power BI and Superset, you get this incredible, deep control. You can ask almost any question you can dream up, but you need the technical skills to pull it off. Metabase flips that on its head. It prioritizes getting answers fast, empowering, say, your marketing manager or your sales lead to find their own answers right now. Okay, so you've managed to ask your question and you've got an answer. What happens next? Well, you need to turn that answer into a visual that tells a compelling story, and then you have to get that story in front of the right people. And when we look at visualization, you see a really similar pattern emerge. Power BI gives you this deep, granular control over every single pixel of your charts. Superset comes packed with a huge library of over 50 different chart types, including some really advanced maps. And Metabase? Yep, you guessed it. It focuses on simplicity. The goal is to give you clean, clear charts that are just plain easy to build and understand. How they handle security and sharing also lines up perfectly with who they're for. Power BI just plugs right into the Microsoft ecosystem, which makes collaboration seamless in big companies. Superset gives developers fine-grained, detailed control to build totally custom permission systems. And Metabase keeps it simple. You can share via email or public links, and it uses a really user-friendly security model called data sandboxing, which basically lets you restrict what data people see without writing a bunch of complex rules. Okay, we've compared how they ask questions, how they visualize answers, and how they share insights. It is time for the final showdown. Which one of these powerful tools is the right choice for your team?
This little summary table really says it all, doesn't it? Power BI is the most complex, but it also has the most powerful engine for data modeling. Superset is that sweet spot in the middle. It's free, it's open source, and it's perfect for dedicated data teams. And Metabase? Well, it's the simplest and most accessible of the bunch, designed to empower all the business users across your entire company. So let's make this crystal clear. You should go with Power BI if your company lives and breathes Microsoft 365, and you have a dedicated team of BI developers ready to master its complexity and build those really sophisticated company-wide reports. Now, you should choose Superset if you've got a strong data engineering team that really wants a flexible, open-source canvas to work with. They can build literally anything they want, from custom charts to deeply embedded analytics, all without being locked into a vendor. And finally, you should pick Metabase if your number one goal is what they call data democratization. If you want your marketing, sales, and operations teams to be able to help themselves, to answer their own questions quickly without having to file a ticket and wait for the data team, this is your tool.
But here's the thing. Choosing the right tool, that's only half the battle. Seriously. No matter which platform you pick, there are some timeless, universal principles that are going to decide whether your whole BI project sinks or swims.
And these are the big four. Number one, get your data model right before you even think about making a chart. A solid foundation is everything. 2, filter your data as early as you can. It keeps everything fast and clean. 3, please resist the urge to cram every possible chart onto one screen. A simple, focused dashboard is always, always better. And finally, number 4, document everything so people actually know what they're looking at.
At the end of the day, any of these BI tools is just a translator. It helps turn the language of data into the language of business. So the real question isn't about which tool is technically the best. It's about whether you and your team are finally ready to listen to what your data has been trying to tell you all along.